is the golden age of Greece, a unique window of time that gives birth to Western ideals of beauty, science, art, and a radical new form of government: democracy. To immortalize those ideals, the Greeks build what will become the very symbol of Western civilization: the Parthenon.
It was the physical embodiment of their values, their beliefs, of their ideology. It remains for us a powerful statement of what human beings are capable of.
The Parthenon is revered as an icon of Western civilization. Its shapely, muscular columns, crowned with majestic capitals, are the very symbol of the classical world. Its height and width define perfect proportions. Its original sculptures have been looted and lusted after for their beauty. And if imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, the Parthenon reigns as the most copied building in the world. From the French Parliament to the US Supreme Court, to banks, museums, and countless buildings that aspire to convey wealth, culture, and power.
The Parthenon remains an enduring symbol. It was built to glorify Athens, but has taken on a much greater meaning. Despite the destructions of time and man, it still represents the highest level of human creativity.
But as magnificent as the Parthenon is today, it is a shadow of its former self. 2,500 years ago, the Parthenon was built as the crowning achievement of classical Greece. It towered on the Acropolis, at the center of a complex of temples and altars, vividly painted and adorned with statues of mortal and immortal greats. The most prominent sculpture stood inside, a 40-foot-high gold and ivory statue of Athena Parthenos, the patron goddess of Athens. Since it was built in the 5th century BCE, it has been shot at, exploded, set on fire, rocked by earthquakes, converted to a church, then a mosque, and in the 19th century, looted for its magnificent sculptures. To make matters worse, at the beginning of the 20th century, the Parthenon was subjected to catastrophic restorations.
The Parthenon was the greatest monument and the greatest sanctuary in the greatest city of classical Greece. It was the central repository of the Athenians' lofty conception of themselves and the physical marble embodiment of their values, their beliefs, their myths, their ideologies. It was as much a temple to Athens and the Athenians as it is to their patron goddess, Athena Parthenos.
But just 30 years before it was built, Athens lay in ruins. A victim of Emperor Xerxes, leader of Greece's traditional enemy, Persia. The Athenians rally the rest of the Greek city-states and, with a series of heroic military victories, drive out the Persian invaders. With the foreign threat neutralized and nearly 200 cities across the Aegean paying into a mutual defense fund, Athens grows wealthy. It's now 450 BCE, and a former general emerges as leader, Pericles. He spearheads an ambitious campaign to rebuild Athens and ushers in the golden age of Greece, a unique window of time that establishes Western ideals of beauty, science, art, and a radical new form of government. Demos, meaning people, and kratos, power, people power, or democracy. In a powerful statement of their self-confidence, the people of Athens vote to rebuild the Acropolis, and at its center, a building to embody their ideals: the Parthenon. is sometimes attributed to the Greek mathematician Pythagoras, who lived 100 years before the building of the Parthenon. In the Victorian age, it became known as the golden ratio. It was a mathematical formula for beauty. For centuries, many scholars believed the golden ratio gave the Parthenon its tremendous power and perfect proportions. Most notably, the ratio of height to width on its facades is a golden ratio.
Parthenon, like a statue, exemplifies a certain symmetry, a certain harmony of part to part and of part to the whole. There's no question that the harmony of the building, which is clearly one of its most visible characteristics, is dependent upon a certain mathematical system of proportions.
For the Greeks, there was nothing better than a design based on the coming together of measures, of proportions and harmonies and shapes. It's rather like an orchestrated piece of music in which the harmonies of the various instruments are sort of fused together in a wonderful, glorious, orchestrated symphony.
With something like the Salamis stone's use of the human body as units of measure and the idealized human form to define perfect proportions, the Parthenon literally embodies the words of the Greek philosopher Protagoras, who lived in Athens during the construction of the Parthenon. Man is the measure of all things. The Parthenon was completed in 432 BCE. As the ultimate expression of Athenian ideals, the temple is adorned with mythological battles of victory, justice over injustice, civilization defeating barbarity, order prevailing over chaos. And perhaps for the first time on a Greek temple, the Athenians, mere mortals, depict themselves alongside the gods. But the temple and society that built it would not last. Just 1 year later, Heracles goes to the citizens of Athens for funds to equip an army against the threat of Sparta. To pay for it, he suggests they could, if necessary, strip the gold from the great statue of Athena. Soon after, Heracles and a third of the city die from the plague. Athens is crushed by the Spartans, who turn the Parthenon into an army barracks. For the next 2 millennia, the Parthenon would be abused by Romans, barbarians, Christians, Muslims, Turks, with the final insult coming in the 18th and 19th centuries, when Europeans rediscover classical Greece and, out of reverence, plunder much of its remaining sculptures. The most famous of which, the Elgin marbles, are in the British Museum to this day. When the Acropolis restoration project began over 30 years ago, Manolis Korres and his colleagues could have chosen to restore the Parthenon to its original state, adorned with sculpture and friezes painted in vivid colors. Instead, they chose to preserve what has survived these 2,500 years. A majestic ruin, a witness to what we needlessly destroy, and the beauty and perfection that we can create.